everyone. Welcome back to A Tribe Called Dhillon podcast. I'm Angie Dhillon.
And I'm Rose Dhillon.
And I'm Alvin Dhillon.
Hope you had a great week. Let's talk about some fun stuff. Today's segment, Win of the Week. While we're talking about ours, think about yours. What's yours, Rose?
Win of the week is my mom. I have elderly parents, so my mom came and stayed with me for a week. I invited her to my home, and it was really great. She was a great roommate. She meditated with me every day. She danced with me. I took her to the casino. She lost some money. We went shopping, kind of discovered my city. And it was just really nice. And I realized, as we get older and our parents get older, we really don't know how much time we have with our parents. So if you have parents and they're getting older, I really would recommend trying to spend as much time with them as you can. So when they kind of are no longer here, you just don't have any regrets. So I really enjoyed my time with my mom, and it was really nice bonding session. And I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot about her life and her childhood.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I knew that you were going to have a blast with mom. I know some of our friends and people that I know were like, oh, your parents came and stayed you for a week. Oh, my parents would drive me crazy. And as nutty and quirky as they are sometimes, you just have to take it with a grain of salt, because I'm sure we're just as annoying to them. Mm-hmm. But one thing about mom is mom's like a 5-year-old kid, because you can mold her, make her do anything, tell her what to do. And she just takes guidance.
She just
really
loves trying things. Like, she's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to meditate. I stare at a blank wall. She's like, oh, okay, can I do it? I was like, hey, come sit next to me. And she did it. We lasted good 30 minutes every day. She did it. She loved it. And then she was like, what do you do now? I'm like, I'm dancing. And she's like, oh, I'll come dance with you too. So mom and I rocked it out to J-Lo's new song. That's awesome.
It's interesting because when we were younger, they used to boss us around, and now we boss them around.
Mm-hmm. It's fun, isn't it?
Now let's talk about your win.
Mine's cool. I'm going to practice some self-care. So I had a message from one of my friends the other day. She was saying, oh, I messaged you on Instagram. She's like, I saw that you have a podcast. She's like, I've been trying to add you, but she's like, I guess you haven't responded, because I guess it shows up in a different part of my Instagram, not a primary inbox. And she does into like healing and those kind of things. And I've known her for a long time. And she said, hey, I'm just finishing up my schooling as an RMT. She's like, I'm doing being a student at this clinic here in Langley. She's like, if you or anyone that knows is interested in getting a massage at a discount, let me know. I'll send you the link. So I was like, oh, I'd be interested. I was like, I like massages. So she's like, here's a link. So it's like an hour for like $70 or $75. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll go take you up on that offer. So I was like, come getting a massage tomorrow.
Cool. Good for you.
I need a massage too. So I was like, I enjoy that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And you know what? Maybe you can pass that on to us. I love a good massage too.
Yeah, send the link if anyone wanted.
Yeah.
Because obviously once they finish their schooling, their rate is the standard rate, which is like now it's at $130 an hour for an RMT.
I will take her up on that too.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Rose, you've never had a massage.
Her out tomorrow,
I do massages. I'm just not as good at it as you guys are. But now that I'm realizing from an energy healing perspective of how much you get released when you do massages, there's a very spiritual component to it. I'm like, sold.
Yeah. And when you get a few done, you see how they work on your own neck. You can just do that sometimes yourself at home. You see, oh, okay, I see the technique that you're doing, and it helps you. Or you're like, you got tension in your neck. You listen to the type of technique they do. You feel it. You do it yourself. You're like, I give myself a massage.
I fall asleep every time. Every time I fall asleep.
If you
massage yourself.
I don't massage myself because I think I can't remember their techniques because I fall asleep when they're doing
right. Yeah, I do.
So I have no clue what they did. I just wake up, I'm like, oh, it's done?
But sometimes there's nothing worse than getting a massage and your massage therapist is a talker and you want to say shut up. So I just give a disclaimer now and say, I hope you don't mind. I'm not much of a talker. I just want a relaxing massage. So I'm going to be out.
I do feel bad for them. Can you imagine everyone who comes to do that just wants silence? So they're just with themselves for like 8-9 hours a day.
Yeah.
There's always relaxing music too. I'm surprised that they don't start falling asleep. Yeah. Like, and just listen to it. And the voice goes lower and lower. You're like, I'm going to fall asleep.
Good. That was your win. That's excellent. And once again, for those of you that are just tuning into our channel or listening to this episode, our win of the week is meant to be a brief little segment and a brief little basically win in your life. So something that we highlight that went positive during the week. What we were finding is that, we would let all these things pass us by and we weren't really giving ourselves kudos or appreciation for something during the week. You're just kind of, in that habit of being hard on yourself. So when we started to realize that, we started to hold ourselves accountable and say, hey, this was something that was really positive that happened for me. I'm going to share it with you. And when the three of us collectively started sharing it out, we started to notice a shift in our psyche and our mind. And we were just starting to realize that we were much more grateful and appreciative for the things that were happening and that we were contributing. So we were holding ourselves in essence accountable. So it's almost now like where for me, I look for something to make sure that I am creating a win for myself so that I can talk about it. Right. So it's a win-win. My win is a really good one. It's a materialistic one. I bought a new sectional.
Wow, you've been on a roll.
It's very beautiful. It's larger than life. It's beautiful. Yeah. My old sectional that I had, it was amazing, but it was just for, it was, I think 3 or 4 people could seat there or could sit on it. And I just wanted something where now if I'm hosting parties, if people are coming over, a good group of us could hang out, shoot the shit, and we could just hang out and everybody gets a seat in the house. So this sectional that I bought does that. So I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
That's my win. Okay, awesome. Let's get into our today's episode. We are going to bring another show to you, a show that has got our mojos. It's got us thinking about life, gender equality, relationships, what life was like, 30, 40 years ago. And once again, it's brought to you by Apple. Apple is stepping up their game with thought-provoking shows that are just making us think outside the box. And it's just making you just realize that there's more to life than just what we're doing right now. Yeah. And also, I feel like the shows that Apple is bringing to our attention is like, you got to do the work. Everything has a connection to why we are the way we are in life.
Oh, I like that.
Thanks. So we're going to be bringing and talking to you today about a hit show that I'm going to call it. It's called Lessons in Chemistry. There is a book. I don't know who the author is, but there's also a book called Lessons in Chemistry.
And the show was based on the book.
Okay. Who brought this show to our attention?
I did.
Okay. And why?
I love Apple, right? So everything I've watched on Apple has been great. So that's like my bookmark. So if I have a weekend that I'm kind of bored or if I come to visit, I always say to Al, like, that's our go-to now. So I'd come to visit Al a couple months ago and we were kind of thinking on Friday night, what should we watch? And I was like, hey, let's look at this Lessons in Chemistry. It's from Apple. And I go, it's got good reviews and we can't go wrong with Apple. And we were hooked.
Yeah, another amazing show by Apple.
Yeah.
Very captivating. And
very captivating.
You got to the point where like, why is there only one season of this show?
Yeah. And I went and looked. I don't think it got renewed. I don't know if that was a pilot season, but it's such a great
I think
show.
The way they did it, because it was based on the book, they ended it that way because that's all it was. Like the way she ended the end gave me the idea there was no need for a sequel.
Yeah. Episode 2, right out of the gates, episode 2 was a sucker punch to the gut. Whoa, I was not expecting that. Yeah. So I'm not gonna give it away, but we do encourage you to watch that show. I'm gonna get into some questions here so we can talk about what the show stands for, what our belief system is around it. I'm gonna go over to you, Al, for this question here. So how does the show portray gender discrimination in the scientific community during the time that it was depicted in? Because it was the 1950s?
Yeah. Well, first, me just watching from my perspective, I'm in the generation, what we call it, Z or X or whatever I'm in, but seeing how it was in the 50s, you couldn't even believe that this is how it was, that they had to use like different washrooms and they didn't have nowhere near any rights. And you're thinking in your head, this is somebody's wife too. So like they go home and they become somebody's wife. And when they come to work, they're just like nobody. This is so foreign concept to me. It was very hard to understand, but how they made you feel watching that show was like very captivating. You related to them a lot. You empathized with them. And you thought to myself, it was like, man, this is like hard for me to watch this, but I want to continue to watch this because I feel like we need to learn about this because people don't want to talk about it or they don't want to say, this is how it was back in the 50s, how women were treated. And it's pretty rough.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this question here from the perspective of a male and the perspective of having 2 sisters. You're our brother. If you didn't have 2 sisters, how would the show play out for you? Like, would it have changed your perspective?
If I didn't have 2 sisters, I wouldn't be watching this show.
Good answer.
Good answer.
I wouldn't have crossed me to cross my
It would have been on your radar.
Yeah, on my radar for me to see it. But I know that I like Apple. I tend to watch other Apple shows. Before Rose had actually told me about that show, I had found it on my guide and I favored it. I just said I'll get to it at some point to go see what's it really about. So but I never got into the details. Maybe I wouldn't have even watched it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what I really loved was when I said to Al, we watched a show in the first episode. He's like, "Oh, it's really good," and Al was like, whoa, is this how it's been for women? Like, really? This is hard. I was like, Yeah, dude, that's why the revolution's happening right now, because we've been so oppressed for so long. And for me, it gave me like, I didn't know how bad it was either. Because again, being born in the 80s, like we don't know this stuff. We read about it, but like Al was like, is this for real?
It gave me a lot of perspective. Like it opened my eyes to be like, I was like in shock for a little while to be like, it was this bad that they had to create a TV show about this. I was like, how was this? This was like what was okay back then.
Yeah,
like, it was a very foreign concept to me, because all those men that were treating the women like that go home to a woman. Yeah. So it's just weird.
Yeah. And you know what the sad reality is that is a reality for so many women in so many countries right now.
Still happening.
Even a lot of countries, they not allowed to drive, and they're quite backward at some places.
Yeah, we're fortunate that we live in the West, but in the East, there's still a lot of discrimination and gender inequality. And it's really sad that in this day and age that this kind of stuff is still happening. And I think that's another reason why that we wanted to shed light. We have a platform. I feel we have a responsibility to start talking about these types of things and start changing the narrative of what's going on out there. And if we can help to shift your perspective on an issue, then I feel like we've done our job. But I think each of us have a responsibility to lead our life with purpose. And this is a show that is really going to get you to start thinking not only about the way you conduct yourself in life, but how you show up for your sisters, for your cousins, for all the women in your life. So it's just a really great family show. Rose, if I can ask you the same question, how does the show portray gender discrimination during that time?
Yeah. Again, I'm not as shocked being a woman and having to struggle to kind of move up in the corporate ladder. I'm working in tech, which is a male-dominated sector. And then I'm in sports and entertainment, which is even more heavily male-dominated. So I've seen my fair share. Again, it's nothing compared to what the show is like. It's a little bit more hidden now. We don't have to come out there and say, you can't do this job. They can do it in other aspects. So there's just no surprise to me. I just didn't realize how bad it was for women. Like I didn't understand. I was like, wow, like this is really unfortunate. And like you had said, Ange, to the viewers, like if you're a male, we totally encourage you to watch it just for you to have a perspective. And if you're a woman, encourage your partner, your husband, your son, your brothers to watch shows like this so that they can understand why the women's revolution is happening today, why the movement is happening is because like Al and I have spoken about this, when you oppress a certain group of people for a certain amount of time, it's like a volcano. They're just gonna erupt. And unfortunately, as excited and happy I am about the women's revolution, we probably are going a little too far, and it's probably going to go too far. But that's what happens when you oppress a group of people. And so that show just really will help you understand. And I think from a male's perspective, have a little more compassion towards women, because some women, they just know they want to grow up and get married and have babies and be a mother. And that's beautiful. But some women don't want that. And that main character was her mojo, where she was very much fascinated by science and chemistry. She wasn't interested in what the typical woman's role is. And she struggled, and she portrayed the struggle throughout the show. So I think that's just a really great show to really highlight that we're all unique. Gender and shouldn't matter. We're all our own unique souls with our own unique journey here.
That's a great answer. Well so the main character, you're gonna fall in love with her. She's like feisty. She's a firecracker. There's just something special about the main character. Her name is Brie. It was played by Brie Larson, but her character name is Elizabeth, and she's faced so many challenges. You can tell there's a story. Life has not been easy for her, but how do you guys think that her resilience contributed to the overall theme? Because there's a theme here in this series, right? Yeah. Al, what do you think? What did you like about watching Elizabeth evolve on, each episode as you watch the show?
I appreciated her strength and her will, because she stood by her conviction and just said, no, this is how I'm going to live my life. And when she had met, what's the gentleman's name?
It is Calvin.
When she had met Calvin, she was upfront to say, I do not want to have kids. Yeah. And I think she said she didn't want to get married.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. And he was okay with it. And they both realized, I think they're like soulmates. Like this was they were meant to be together. And just the way it played out, it was very interesting to watch. And I think most of it's actually based on a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of it's based on a true story. So just seeing her strength, it gave you strength to be like, she's up against so much I'm like losing the words today. What's the
adversity?
Adversity.
Yeah.
That's it. She's up against so much adversity, and for her to like push through, and then she has the kid, and she has to take care of the daughter. It was amazing to watch that. I was actually wish they had another season to see how does this play out.
Yeah. She kept getting so many setbacks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. She pushed through.
Yeah.
And, it was I really enjoyed that show, and it was great to watch her do that. They needed a show like that to uplift women again.
100%.
Yeah, no, I agree. Rose, what about you? What do you think about Elizabeth's character?
Yeah, I think resilience. That's what the main theme of that was. Like, life is going to kick you left, right, and center, like any direction. Every time you take 2 steps forward, be prepared to take a step backward, but don't stop taking the steps forward. That was what I really got from the show, was that every time something pushed her, she would think about it and figure out, okay, I've got to find a way to move forward. And there was so much expectations from her too. Like, her neighbor was African-American and not being accepted also at that time, having their own issues, and her having to support her friend now. And then she's got a partner and she's got her job that she's struggling with, and then she unexpectedly has a child. She had so much that came at her, and just the way she took it with grace and the way she took it with class and just kept persevering. You just had nothing but love for her. Like, I really admired that character that they created.
You wanted to cheer for her, right?
Yeah.
To see her win.
I wanted to see her win. I wanted to see her win.
Absolutely. We talked about this on our Only Fools Russian episode, and we talked about making the relationship however you choose to make it right for yourself. You don't have to put a label. You can say it's your partner. And there was such a beautiful moment in the movie when I believe Calvin went ring shopping, and he got the ring and he had it with him, and he wanted to propose. And somewhere along the line, Elizabeth and Calvin started having a conversation, and he didn't propose, or she didn't have any she didn't have an indicator from him that he was going to propose, but she's just basically laid out the cards and was like, kind of like what a guy would do in this day and age. Like, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have kids, and she just laid it out for him. And then he said, well, I don't want to lose you. And if that's what it means that we're going to have a relationship, then so be it. And you have to remember, this is in the 50s. During that time, to not get married, not bear children, it's so taboo. So the fact that she was just such a trailblazer for women of her time, that story, it still resonates today, because it's all of these Elizabeth and all of our sisters that came before us that have championed for all of us today to be where we are. So for me, her character, she's just such a powerhouse. And even for Calvin, like, where are all the Calvins of the world?
I need a Calvin in my life, a pioneer. Yes.
And if you're a Calvin out there, you need to be like a Calvin, because he was just like, okay, whatever it works for you, we're going to figure this out together. And there needs to be more couples like that in the world that try and just figure things out, instead of, I know a lot of people say, I didn't want to have children, or this person couldn't give me children, so we're going to break up. That shouldn't be the end or a demise of a relationship, because someone can't give you something. Take what they're willing to give you and meet them halfway is what I say.
I love that. I want to add to that, because that scene for me was very powerful. I think it's one of the things that I remembered and I took for myself for it. When she said that to him, I don't want to get married and I don't want to have children. Science is my life. And he was like, well, I always thought I would get married and have children at some point in my life. He's like, but I also never thought I would find a partner like you who was as in love with science as I am and who's so motivated to do this, that finding someone like you is something that's like a needle in a haystack. Yeah. I'm okay not having children, because I never expected to meet someone as great as you. And I thought that's so inspirational, that we always have this agenda. Well, I have to meet a guy so I can get married and have children. You might meet the greatest guy and he might say, well, I don't want to have children, but he's more than what you anticipated having in your life. For me, that was just eye-opening when he said, no, I'm willing to sacrifice not having children if that means I get to be with you. And we together can go on our journey of, maybe they were doing some research, right? That they were trying to discover something that they were doing. And to have someone to go through that journey with you is more important than, I guess, maybe having the children. And that was such a valuable scene for me.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking out loud right now. And I know that, there are so many people that have been in relationships, and the deciding factor is we have to get married and we have to have children. Those two items shouldn't be a deal breaker for you, because if there's a lot of love between you, and let's just say there's some women out there and some men that can't have children for whatever reason, fertility issues, that shouldn't be the end of it. We have to change that narrative. And so, in the end, Elizabeth did end up having a child, not, that she was trying. It was unexpected. But I'm just saying that they had to figure out, okay, you know what? We're not going to be the traditional conventional conventional couple, but this works for us. And I think that sounds true. And it's so relevant in today's day and time as well.
Yeah. Love it.
Now let's talk about the two characters, Calvin's character and Elizabeth's character. We can relate because they both come with baggage and they got some trauma.
Massive trauma.
Right.
Yep.
So what do you think with, the way their two characters were, the complex background that they came from, how do you think their past influenced their storyline together? Al?
That was a fully loaded question.
Fully loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to answer that one because I really do think that because she's somebody with no affection and someone who's very like, don't, I saw her. I was like, I see a little angina in this. Okay.
Yeah.
And he softened her, right? He brought that out. Remember when she didn't know how to swim and she was uncomfortable going in the water and he's like, I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to go there with you. Like he was so patient with her and doing those things with her. And then her rewarding him with having that dog and saying, here's your running partner. Like the little things that they both did for one another, I think is what really made you think about this is a kind of, for me, that was the kind of relationship I want. I don't need handbags or material things. I want someone who's, like Al said, a pioneer in advocating for women and understanding and being kind and loving and respectful. That's everything to me. And I think that's so much more meaningful than being like, here's a $5,000 handbag. Like that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think for me personally, the complex background that they came from made the show so much more relatable because we all are complex individuals at the core. We all come with baggage. We all come with, honestly, I think we're born into this world with complexes that we often don't know about.
Yeah.
And those complexes come out through life circumstances and situations and how we handle. So we're constantly being tested. And sometimes something from your past life will trigger you because I am a big believer in reincarnation. I truly feel I'm reincarnated. So sometimes when my reaction to things is so sometimes far-fetched from how I think I should have reacted, I'm like, who is this? So with that show and that scenario with them, I could relate because they're awkward. They're so socially awkward. Elizabeth doesn't know how to love. She's trying to figure out love. And I feel like I'm the same way. How many of us don't know that dance of love? Right?
It feels awkward.
Yeah. What was your thing about them too, Al, with all the stuff that they came in and they're trying to figure things out?
It was really interesting to me. But what I found more interesting was if it really wasn't for her manager, the one guy that got her into the TV show, I think having that kid and the stress of like her loss, she would have not been able to progress. She would actually went downhill because think about that. We were all shocked watching that
episode
what
2?
do you? Yeah,
we're not going to give it away.
Yeah, you're like, what are you supposed to do after this? Like, everyone would fall apart.
Yeah.
But the way the universe started working itself out and brought that guy into her life, it made me feel at some point in the show that, okay, there are good people out there because it helped her get to the point where she needs to be. And it basically got her mind off of that and occupied. And she ended up becoming a role model for other women. Yeah. And there was people in the crowd that it just the way everything played out. I just said somebody was like, universe was, it was a part of this TV show when they were creating it.
Yeah. And episode 2 is a total tearjerker. We want you to know we are not going to.
It's a must watch. So
yes, we're not going to give it away.
Gut kind of.
Yeah, we're not going to give away what happens. But what I do want to say is that, and we said this in Only Fools Russian as well, that yes, Elizabeth had her Calvin, but the biggest thing, like Alvin also said in that our Only Fools Russian, I'm doing a shameless plug, my apologies, is that you got to figure out your why. And so whatever happened to her, whatever life threw her way, she still had to pick up and say, like, what is my life's purpose? And she obviously had to figure out her passion and find what made her happy. Because ultimately, people are going to come and go into your life. Things will happen, but you still have to carry on with life sometimes. And in this case here, Al, what you said in Only Fools Russian that really resonated with me is that's your true happiness. You have to still go on.
Because that's what you do for your 8 hours a day is really you being by yourself or going to a job or doing something with your time that's going to somehow pay your bills, but you've got to enjoy doing that because if it's a painstaking task every day, I just feel like that's going to contribute to your stress. It's going to eat you up inside, and that's going to be like you're going to die off just soon because your body's just saying this is not what I want to do. Your mind's not wanting to do this. I'd rather just go to the other side.
And without giving too much away, how many people do you think are out there like Elizabeth and Calvin that have had that exact same situation play out in their life?
Probably, thousands of stories that have happened, even more. Like we think about in our culture of how many women get pushed down or not even allowed this. A lot of women don't get back up. And then in Indian culture, this still happens, right? Like sati still happens where the woman has to die after your partner or something happens to your partner. So a lot of times in certain cultures, this is still here where a woman can't function and continue on. So to me, that's why I said resilience was a theme, is that she just kept, and I really like the point where you said it was that when that gentleman came in as kind of like a savior in his own little disguise. And I had made a post on LinkedIn about that when I said, like, thank you to all the men who have championed for women's rights. Like, thank you to all the men who've given women opportunities at work. If it wasn't for the men, we wouldn't have these opportunities. We could fight and scream all we want, but it took some man to say, you know what, let's give him a chance. And so sometimes I think we women forget that as much as we champion for one another, that we do have to not forget that, like Elle said, there are good men out there that have championed for us women, and let's not forget those guys.
And to those of you that are girl dads or have sisters, that are raising the future female leaders of the world, this is a must show watch for you, because honestly, you want to raise strong, elevated women that are going to be fierce. And there's nothing wrong with whatever path they choose in life. But this show sheds light into just what the evolution of the women's movement has gone through. The fact that we're still fighting and there are still amazing men out there. But I think moving forward for the next generation and for our generation, let's be better than our parents' generation. And let's raise the bar here where we work together. Both genders work together to close the gap on gender equality, because this show really did show there's a huge contrast between the two genders here. And honestly, gender inequality is still a problem today in 2024.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've got
women
a
are
stat.
still paid less.
Yes. And I have a stat I'll tell you right now here. So we know this. This is 100% a fact. Women and men are still not treated equally. We know that. Men still make more money than women in the exact same jobs. I've got a stat from 2022. Did you know that women earned 17% less than men on average?
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe it.
20%.
Women actually earned, and this was in 2022, 82 cents for every dollar a man makes. That is so sad. And the gender, or I guess the nationality, or I can say that the women, it's more women of color that are affected by all of this. There is still that level of discrimination and
100%.
inequality for women of color.
And Angela, I want to add to that because that was great. I had a recruiter who'd reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we had a chat. And I was, telling her, what are your salary expectations? Like, what are you thinking about doing? And I was telling her, and I was like, well, I heard that I'm getting paid pretty good in this role, and explaining what I do to her day to day. And she's like, yeah, maybe for a woman, you're getting paid good. But I know men who do the exact same job as you do and are making way more money than you. I was like, oh, wow. Like, that was the first time that I had realized that, in tech, definitely in tech, men and women doing the exact same job are getting paid different salaries.
Yeah. Well, I know that throughout the course of my career, my 20-year career, I have been overlooked for so many positions. I have been told where you have to have a certain criteria for a position. And I know that I had all of the training, all of the qualifications, only to find out months later that the man, or like the guy that they hired for the role, doesn't even have the credentials, doesn't even have a basic degree. And you're like, it's such a slap to your face when you're like, but why? Because they're white. And I hate to say that, but we have to talk about the race card. The race card is still an issue in this day and age, and we have to start talking about these things. It's just not fair. And we have a platform now to start raising the vibration and raising awareness about this sort of stuff for the next generation. Please be better than our generation. And then all the generations that came before us, work together. Men and women, let's work together to be fair and to be equal and to create equality across the board for men and women of color.
As long as the work and the job is getting done, doesn't matter who's doing it. Because if you don't end up figuring it out, AI is going to do it for you.
And honestly, I'm just going to throw it out there. This is one of the main reasons why we started a podcast, because I just finally, honestly, just got sick and tired. I've worked in the corporate world for so long. I have been overlooked for so many promotions. And I finally just said, I will never get to the level of director, VP. I just know that. I know in my bones, I finally felt it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go work on my own brand, because I'm tired of making other people's brand look good now.
And when you look at their workload, it's not very very appealing to me to say, this is how much they're going to pay you for this much of your time and energy. Right. It just doesn't add up or make sense. So it's like the universe wanted you to see that to force you to say, go down to your own path to create.
Yeah. And when you're a visible minority, I'll tell you right now, man, you got to make sure that you're up there and you're leveled up, and you will always have to work 10 times as harder. You have to take your shirt off. You have to take this, that, all these other things. What I'm just basically meaning to say is that you got to sell your soul sometimes to get into a position, and it's not even going to make you happy.
Yep.
So
just for the title and the paycheck. And as you get older and you get wiser, you realize, is it really worth it? Like Anne said, do I really want to sell my soul to the devil just for that title and that paycheck? Or maybe I'll just go create my own brand.
Honestly, that the younger generation that want to become YouTubers, I totally get it. Yeah. You are your own boss. Like, and you get to create whatever you want. Yep. And you make an income out of it, like a pretty decent income. Yep. So totally get it. And they're happy about it. They like enjoying it. Yeah.
And shout out to every single one of you influencers out there, content creators and YouTubers, because you know what? You change the landscape of corporate.
You made us believe
organizations. And you are one of the reasons why we decided, you know what? If you can do it, we can do it too. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So that was our episode. Here we go. It is Lessons in Chemistry. It is a great show, a must watch by Apple. Look for it, and let us know in our comment section on the episode of what you thought about that show. So until next week, friends and family, please take care of yourself. Thank you for tuning into our channel. As you can tell, I'm revved up and passionate about this now. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you're just tuning into our channel. Thank you for allowing us into your home and into your, I guess, hearts. Giving us some time and heart and just listening to today's episode. And together, let's be some movers and shakers. 2024 is going to be a great year. Until next week, please take care of yourself. It is your favorite trio of siblings signing off. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.